Welcome back to Big Red Rant. There are tons of rumors going around about who the next coach is going to be. One second, Deion Sanders is literally our coach. The next second, he has no interest. We've talked about Aranda. We've talked about Kleiman. We've talked about Matt Campbell. We've talked Urban Meyer. Today, we're going to talk about Matt Rhule because that rumor has been heating up. But tell us what you think in the comments. Do you like Matt Rhule? Do you want him to be the coach? Or does his failure in the NFL scare you away? Hit the like button and let's get straight into it, Gary. What's gotten these rumors so hot? How do you feel about Matt Rhule?
I think a big part of what's gotten it going is he was already always one of those names put towards the top of the list. I think it's a combination of things. The recency deal, I kind of expected names to churn out like they have been earlier on. But I think Mickey Joseph took a lot of that away because so many people got on that bandwagon and were really hoping he would be the guy. So it kind of took a lot of steam away from these candidates or these names, and they were at the top of a lot of prominent people's lists. But as the season's gone on and Mickey Joseph has not continued to win, after the Rutgers and Indiana game where he really was picking up steam, people that now are starting to look for the next thing. Like I said, he's been one of the top names for a while, even before Carolina let him go. It was kind of a foregone conclusion that they were going to. So people were on that. What's really the key thing? I don't know. I've been out of town hunting, and on the way out on a trip out, literally was all the crazy rumors about Deion. And within a day, no, he's not going to do that. The next day, no, he's not interested. He's not coming. There's no contact, whatever. And then literally on our way back into town, we're hearing they could name him. It's going to be Matt Rhule, and they could name him as soon as tomorrow, and then it's maybe the next day. I think a lot of that sparked up from somebody saying that one of our main donors' private jet was in Charlotte or some whatever. But, we talked early on that was going to be the thing, that people were going to be here or planes were going to be different places and all this stuff. It's just part of it, man. The season's lost. It's the next optimistic type thing that people can look for, is who's going to be the guy to turn it around, and what can we focus on is going to give a little bit of hope for the future. And right now he's kind of checking a lot of those boxes as what people want and anticipate. I don't think they're going to name a coach before the Iowa game, whether he has his guy or not, whether there's been an agreement made or not. I don't see how that helps Mickey Joseph or the rest of the players focusing on these last two games against Wisconsin and Iowa. And I also think if it's not a Matt Rhule or Urban Meyer, John Gruden type, whatever, somebody who's not already with the team, if it is a guy who's in the middle of coaching, it's not going to help him either in his situation to name it before the season's over. So I think that I will be surprised if there's not another 1 to 5 guys brought up with this kind of seriousness to it. I'm not super excited or upset with Matt Rhule. I kind of take away what happened in the pros, because we've seen countless times guys who are stud college coaches go to the pros, fail, go back and be good in college. So aside from that, the pros are obviously what he did with Temple and then with Baylor, especially Baylor, because Baylor being the top, or a Power 5 school, they had huge penalties and restrictions on things because of the sexual assault or sexual harassment case, whatever that whole debacle was that they had from their previous coach. He comes in and in a very short time turns that program around to where they're one tackle away from competing in the playoff, which is what elevated him and got him up to where he could go to, was sought after by pro teams. And that was kind of also one of my arguments when we talked about Dave Aranda was doing the things he was doing with Matt Rhule's team, what he left there for him. I don't think that necessarily has changed. The things I worry about is, again, and I know we get crucified every time we talk about it, but the Big 12, we were a powerhouse in the Big 12. Went to the Big 10. A lot of people were worried about that move, and you see why. It's different football, and you have to be geared towards more power and physical game, which is so much more dependent on your offensive line and your defensive lines. And I don't know where he is on that. I know he dabbled, he was a defensive back coach, offensive line coaching, assistant, stuff like that. One thing is he mentioned before about He liked Baylor because he didn't have to travel a lot to recruit. There's been talks about him not being big on the recruiting thing and traveling all over the country. We have to do that in Nebraska. We don't have a ton of talent in our backyard, and it's not a huge draw for kids on, in the South and on the coast. So that kind of worries me a little bit. If you keep a guy like Mickey, and maybe, when you start bringing in other assistants, maybe that's some of their strong points and you can kind of balance that out. But it's just, I really would like a guy who has a lot more of his previous coaching experience and his experience to be in the Big Ten. Now, he played at Penn State. A volunteer, graduate assistant, whatever you want to call it, with some of that. So it's not like he doesn't know what he's doing or doesn't know anything about the Big Ten. It's just his coaching success has come from primarily the Big 12. And again, that doesn't mean he can't adapt or he doesn't understand what's going on. I'm sure anybody who's looking at the job understands what it takes, at least on paper, to compete in the Big Ten. There's a couple guys that I like that I would prefer over him, but I don't think it'd be a bad move. I know a lot of people don't like him. I know he's a big name, so some people really do like him. It's just one of those things, man. I'm not going to get too excited excited is not even the word. I'm not going to get too caught up in, oh, this could be a real thing or this looks likely, until you start hearing things come from actual sources from the university or insider guys that are down in Lincoln. So, I think we'll be doing another video on another guy or two in the next day or two. And I won't be surprised, like I said, if that keeps going through the rest of the season. What are some of the main things you want a coach to have when he comes? Is there anything like priority wise that's number one on your list, or 2 or 3 on your list that like these guys have to have this, or I really want these guys to have A, B, or C?
I'm really just hoping for a Big Ten winning coach, someone who's done it in the Big Ten. I think that's my new biggest care about coaching. Because even when I think about Rhule, I like him, but he hasn't done it in the Big Ten, so ultimately I'm going to have questions.
So you kind of narrowed down to, obviously we've discussed before, one of our first coaching videos was Urban Meyer after the Dan Patrick thing. I've been saying all along, my number one pick would be Fickell, who, coming from Ohio State and doing what he's done there. And then he's kind of the best of both worlds to me. He knows what it takes and has had that experience in the Big Ten, but he's also taken a smaller conference type school and competed with the big boys, from not getting the top recruits, but still doing well recruiting, developing guys, and being competitive against teams that you think would be out of their league. But again, has that Big Ten experience and understands what it takes to win and do well in the Big Ten. I don't know that you're going to get all that. I don't know that Fickell would even be interested in the job. I'm sure that feelers have been put out to him, but it's just, we don't know. This is some of the coaching hires like Pelini and Frost, there was either kind of a given who we were going to get, so you didn't need a lot of resources or, a lot of people saying, oh, this is happening or this is happening. Like, you just kind of expected at some point they were going to name Pelini, or at some point they're going to name Frost. And we don't have that this go around. So you get a lot of people who want somebody and they're tying anything they can to that guy. And I feel like that's kind of what this is. He could be, it could already be a done deal that he's going to be the guy, but it could also not be, you know what I'm saying? So it's just, I'm with you 100% on the Big Ten aspect, because it really is a different animal. So, but what's your thoughts on Rhule and how likely you think it is?
I'm going to be grateful if we get a coach that's done well in college as well as he's done. I'm starting to realize that it's not that easy to get somebody to come to Nebraska who can actually do it. I used to think that we were a bigger draw, and I'm starting to realize maybe we're not. So I'm trying not to be too damn picky about who's the next coach. As long as they have a good track record in college, I'm gonna try to be grateful.
Yeah, and it's that gets kind of muddy water area too, because some of the previous coaches we talked about have had college success, but like I said with Aranda, I feel like he's done what he's done at Baylor with Matt Rhule's team, and as that phases out, you see he's not having the best of years this year, multiple times this season after losses. Well, my guys weren't ready. Well, who's supposed to get them ready? You know what I mean? Matt Campbell, for different reasons, have lost some games that you would think they shouldn't be losing, or if that trajectory is going to keep going from where he started turning Iowa State around. You don't like to see those plateaus or those little slide backs. That's what we talked about with Mickey Joseph. You kind of get into a point where it's like, yeah, these guys have had college success even before they were at the jobs they're at now, but what's happening now? What's going to happen when now they're in a different conference where maybe the things that work in their conference aren't going to work in this conference? Like Pelini. Pelini had it to where we had a dominant defense, very good run game that was very hard for teams in the Big 12 to compete with, other than, Texas and maybe Oklahoma. Oklahoma was kind of down towards the end of that. But are we going to get another version of that? And if we do early on, people are going to be excited about it, because if you're looking at 9-10 win seasons compared to what we've done the last 6-8 years, that's amazing. Everybody would take that. But how long is that good enough going to be good enough? You know what I mean? So I just look at it as, Matt Rhule also is getting paid a lot of money to not coach. So if he doesn't think it's an ideal situation, if the recruiting, for example, is a big turnoff to him because, one, he can't do it all in close proximity, and he's going to have to bounce all over the country, and he's going to have multiple guys in different regions trying to get talent that he's still going to have to develop to be able to compete with, at first anybody in the Big Ten, but to get to a point where you're even talking about trying to compete with Michigan and Ohio State, is that a turnoff for him where he can sit back and get paid? And then when a better job, a Southern team or a California West Coast team, something like that, a Florida team opens up, okay, now I can stay close to home, easily recruit, have my guys go the distances they need to go. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe he doesn't even, maybe he's not that interested in the job right now. And there's just a lot of hype because he was already one of the top people on the board the second Frost got fired. And then it panned out that he got fired, which people were anticipating. I don't think it's the home run hit, to me at least. I get that it might be for other people because the dude is unquestionably a very, very good college coach. But along with what you're saying, I agree. I would like somebody with a little bit more of a proven track record that translates to the Big Ten. But now you really narrow down the field of guys that you're talking to and going after.
Tell us what you think about Matt Rhule in the comments. Would you like him to be the Huskers' next coach, or do you have your eye on someone else? Hit the like button for us. We'll see you guys next time. Go Big Red.